Hello, this is Cherubini, and today I'm talking about belief systems, our belief system that might have gone awry somehow. I keep hearing people say, I just can't believe this, I can't believe that, and when I sometimes tell individuals about things that I know are going on in government and in high technology, they seem to have a sort of disbelief in that. And I was wondering why, concerning the organized government gang stalking, why is it so hard for people to come to grips with that possibility? Why can't they readily accept that, yes, we do have this occurring? It's it's one of the worst things that's ever happened in our country. This entire conspiratorial system of that's a criminal organization, and it's being operated evidently by our own government, and yet people can't believe that. They have trouble with that. And I was talking to somebody I posed the question, why don't they believe it? They said, well, maybe it's because they don't want to believe. I said, don't want to believe, okay. And I didn't fully grasp the significance of that comment until maybe a couple weeks later. I was reading something probably on the internet, and a fellow named Keith Forsyth, one of the very brave dissidents or truth seekers that broke into an FBI office and got the files and discovered that they were running the COINTELPRO, as it was called back then, which is supposed to be a predecessor of the organized government gang stalking. And Keith Forsyth said, when you talked to people outside the movement about what the government, he might have said FBI in that case, it was an FBI office they went into. He says, but about what the government was doing, nobody wanted to believe. And he used the word wanted just a week or two after someone else had made that statement about people not wanting to believe. And it makes you wonder, what is wrong? Why don't we want to believe what is true? Why do we avoid the truth about a lot of matters, especially if that truth might be something to do with a conspiracy, which conspiracies have been here ever since recorded history, since the beginning of man. Probably early caveman was a part of this. But anyway, I have a few other quotes that I want to share with you. I never thought I'd have so many quotes at one time. Actually, it's only 3 or 4, but anyway, one is from a president here. Not my favorite president by any means, and in fact, I've never heard anyone say he was their favorite president, but it's President Truman, and I like this quote. He says, "We want no Gestapo or secret police. The FBI is tending in that direction. They are dabbling in sex life scandals and plain blackmail. All congressmen and senators are afraid of him," him being J. Edgar Hoover. And I pulled that off Wikipedia. But the quote is by a president saying that own FBI is into dabbling in sex life for blackmail purposes and things like that, it's we maybe don't want to believe something like that. I can understand that. I would not want to believe that the people that we are paying their salaries, big salaries, lots and lots of money to protect us from things like blackmailers and scandal raisers and whatever. These are the ones that are doing the damage. That's what President Truman said, and I appreciate the comment because I think it still stands, still today, 60, 70, whatever years later, that many, maybe not all, he says all congressmen and senators are afraid of him and his company, of course, but I would say close to all are probably, if not all. I can think of a very few that might not be afraid of what the covert organizations and agencies are doing and have done and will probably continue to do unless somebody takes some affirmative action. That was President Truman. Okay, here is one by the director of the FBI itself, a national director for 37 years, J. Edgar Hoover. I'm sure that may ring a bell for you, but once again, this is not one of my top favorite people, and again, I don't know of anybody I've ever talked to that said it was. In fact, there are some very, very bad things. But the quote here is excellent, I think. It's actually supposed to be about concerning communism, but the odd thing is it describes the COINTELPRO movement that came out the same year he made this statement, 1956. And he says, I quote, "The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists." That was J. Edgar Hoover, excuse me. And a very, well, I've run across this quote so many times in the last 2 years since I've discovered the COINTEL. I didn't even know about COINTELPRO. I probably heard the name and knew that at some point, I'm not sure I even remembered it, that somebody had broken into the FBI office and discovered it, and then it was taken to court not too long after the break-in and declared very illegal, this kind of operation, covert operation against America's own citizens. And okay, that's 2 or 3 good quotes. My last quote here is from a regional FBI director for 27 years, 3 different regions across America. And he turned whistleblower. I don't know exactly what year, but as soon as he became a whistleblower, a lot of odd things started happening, including his, well, I won't get into all those, but Ted Gunderson is the person I'm quoting here, and he says, since the 1980s, gang stalking He uses the term gang stalking, which no one seems to like, including me, but it's here. Gang stalking has increased in scope, intensity, and sophistication by adapting to new communications and surveillance technology. This was written some 4 or 5 years ago, and since our technology tends to double every 11 months, we've had several doublings of the technology since this was written. So we can get an idea what not only the surveillance, but the weaponry that is being used, including biological, chemical, and drug weaponry on America's targeted individuals. That's really not the main one I had here, but he says, I've come to the conclusion that thousands of victims have been targeted by an illegal government rogue criminal enterprise that is active 24 hours a day within the United States. He did not say rogue corporate enterprises. He did not say private criminal gangs. He said government rogue criminal, and he gives some very good reasons for believing this. And by the way, not only was he a director, but he worked with many people. And it says right here, FBI, CIA, NSA, military intelligence, getting this information so he could enlighten the public about it. Finally, he goes on to say that this program's operations are financed by illegal black operations such as narcotics, prostitution, human trafficking, and many other rackets. I don't know where they would even draw the line. Does this sound like the kind of organization that you would prefer to run our country? Can a country last very long with these kinds of operations being performed at the top levels? I don't think so. And I don't want to believe it's happening either. If somebody had told me what I'm telling you, say 5 years ago, I was already suspicious about many things because my targeting has been going on for over 20 years now. But if somebody had actually come up and told me this, what I'm saying right here, given me the quotes, I might have still resisted. That's how humans are. They do not want to believe what we have grown up with from babies. I remember as a very young child being told, we don't do those kinds of things. That's for Nazis. We don't do that. These sorts of things. That's criminal activity. And yet the ones in charge of our destiny, you might say, are doing these things, and probably much, much worse if we knew the full picture and everything wasn't so opaque, so covert, with no transparency. The promise of transparency a few years ago, down the drain immediately. No transparency. The only ones that can even investigate these coverts are, you probably know who, our Congress. And with that said, I think I've probably said enough in this short time, but I want to say I appreciate your tuning in and listening. Thank you so much.